Hey guys, this is Golden DS, and today I bring you the final edition of this whole anniversary thing. It's basically the questions that you want answered, and most of you probably have got the answers out of me in simple terms in the streams that I do. So, starting off, we've got Supermuko asks, so what made you start LPing and who inspired you the most? Well, what made me start LPing was I wanted to find footage or make my own footage for doing a Twilight Princess AMV. I did make one, but that was the first one I ever made, and this was a while after. And I bought a capture card even before I wanted that because I thought it was useful, and so I bought one. And yeah, I saw a few people LPing. The one at the time had to be Cloud8745. Um, Obviously he was the biggest. Um, up to a certain point, and I started watching his videos, and I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool to do. I kind of want to do it, but it's slightly nerdy. I don't think I will, and I wasn't that comfortable with speaking to people. Um, well, I wasn't that comfortable with speaking to myself because I didn't do it that often. So it was one of the things of being pushed. Now, who pushed me? Emil and Jess pushed me. Basically, I said I'd like to do this. They said, "All right, well, this is while I was over," and they said, "All right, do it." And I was like, "Well, you'd actually sit there and listen to me talk about a game?" And they go, "Hmm." So I do it. I think that's sort of some pretty good commentary for my first ever try. And while they're too busy messing around on a bed, don't read into that. Then I find out after about half an hour or something, I get bored, turn off. But I find out I've lost all my commentary of it. But nonetheless, it worked. It was a success, so I tried again later on. But effectively, those are the two that pushed me to do it. Who inspires me the most? That's a tough question. I think anyone I watch inspires me. Sugar Conroy used to inspire me to do more editing, but now I realize I actually don't have the time for that editing. I think H.C. Bailey does still, in some ways, inspire me to give you the most of a game in the LP, to really show the games all, and that's what I think is what I enjoyed. And to be honest, I think all LPers inspire me in some way. Some of them don't, but most of you have something that's different. I don't particularly know. I don't watch much at the moment. I mean, at the very moment, Noodles, I have to say, is inspiring me to do LPs, to do more, and to do more with my video because I've watched him and his commentary, I think, is better than mine. Now, don't go on at that. I think everyone's commentary nearly is better than mine. It's just something. At the moment, I'd say between HC Bailey and Noodles, Cloud 8745 was a big one at the time, and Joe Conroy was a big one while I was watching him, and a bunch. Oh, and I guess TL Game Master is in some ways, and possibly Louis Prowler. Now, Louis Prowler is another one of these big people who did inspire me at that time. So we on to the next question. Naruto Hingatashigara asks, so GoldenEye, who was your inspiration? How did you get to know Noodles? When did you start and why? What did you use to LP? And what advice would you give to new people who are starting LPing? Now as I've answered those questions, I'll move on to the next one. How do you get to know Noodles? Well, me and Noodles, or Ollie as I'm going to say, have been friends for over 80% of my life, I think. We met in not in preschool in Winsham, which was where I used to go as a child, and we basically have been friends since then. He used to live here in the country, so we used to be quite extremely close. We still are, but there's a bit more of a gap that separates now. I mean landmass gap. So yeah, Noodles is very much a part of what I do on this channel, and I got to know him because we were in the same nursery class, so preschool class. So yeah, things kind of went from there. What do you use to LP? I use a Dazzle DVC130 and I use a Dazzle DV80 to stream. The DVC130 is one of the ones that converts it to MPEG, then streams it to your computer. DV80 is one that uses a lower resolution to send all the data in digital video form to your computer. Of course, most programs don't accept the MPEG, so you need a raw thing for the streaming, so that's why I use that. What advice would I give to new people who are starting LPing? I'd just say, if ever you've thought about doing it, do it. But don't be expecting an instant bunch of people to go, wow, that was amazing. You need to have the inspiration to do it, but you also need to have the drive to keep doing it, because that's the only way you're going to really get popular, is by keep producing videos and try and, if say the Toy Story 3 is coming out. If I'd have released a Toy Story 2, the game sometime around about a month ago, that would have got a lot of views at starting out. At that time, my videos already got views. It's kind of about timing, but it's mainly about your consistency. And if you're starting out, make sure you do a lot. I can't say this enough, but do a lot of research on the equipment. Dazzles are good, but there are plenty and plenty of drawbacks. You need to be aware of those, otherwise you'll come out disappointed and you'll spend money you didn't want to spend on it. So do a lot of research, and ask people. Don't be afraid to go and ask a YouTuber, but try to do someone who's uber popular, like Chugga, because he hasn't got the time to answer the question because he's landed with like billions of others. But try and ask people if you really stuck. But do the looking around yourself. But if you want to ask someone like, how do you think what this device, because you use it, is, then by all means do that. And that's it. I just really speak. Just don't. You can put on an act if you want, but only if you can keep up that act. It's just about, you just really have to speak to yourself, talk to yourself. It's difficult for me to give you advice. You just have to go out, try it, and if you really didn't like doing it, that's okay. But if you really want to try and do it, you can push yourself, and you get over that barrier of talking to yourself, which is something which everybody has, and they sign it with madness. Okay, so that's really all I can give you on advice. It's just something you do. Maybe if you want to do it with a few friends, that's a good way to start off as well. But there we go. All Gamers Play Games asks, what program do you use to capture video, and what settings do you use to record? Well, my program I use to capture video is the one which is given with my device, the Dazzle. It's one that you have to use because it's a proprietary piece of hardware, so it needs its own thing. So I use Pinnacle Studio version 11. It's the latest one I've got. I don't fancy looking at Pinnacle Studio because it's just a pile of crap, apart from the capturing. My exact settings, if I go there, I set it on NTSC if I'm recording PAL 60 or NTSC signals, or PAL obviously if I'm recording PAL signals. Now at the moment I've only got 45 minutes left, but my capture format is usually in custom, and I usually have it as MPEG-2 resolution 720 by 576, and my data rate by about 8,400 kilobytes or 10,000 kilobytes per second. That's it. I usually capture from the video system itself because the Dazzle actually has audio capture. Well, this one does. The 80 crashes your computer or whatever, but that's not for here. So moving on to the next question. Ultima Shadow 7 asks, what do you use to edit your videos? And as a side question, why are you great? To edit my videos, I use Sony Vegas Movie Studio 7, I think. Is it 7? I forget the exact number, but I use the second latest one because the new version has just come out. No, it's 9, isn't it? 9. The 10's has just come out. I'm thinking about getting 10. I use the Movie Studio version because it's not as expensive, and it's good for LPs because you don't want to use like 20 layers, and most of the features you won't use. But it's stable, it works, and it'll read the MPEG files, and it's better than Windows Movie Maker because you can do more stuff with it, and you're not particularly limited. The only times you're limited is with layers and a bunch of other things. And sometimes with the codecs, I mean, it's a lot slower. When you get that, say if you've been using Windows Movie Maker and you've been rendering videos flying off your desk, when you start using Sony Vegas, you will slow down. The render rate is slower because I don't know if it's just a change in my settings, but it just is slower than a Windows Movie Maker at rendering videos. But you can do a lot more, and of course the preview box is also something which we'll complain about as being slow, so that's another thing to watch out for. There's a side question, why are you so great? I'm not, but I try. Sianu24 asks, why did you start? Your favorite games, who LP or otherwise are you a fan of? While you're if you could invite anyone to a party, past or present, who would you invite and why? If you could design a toilet paper, if you could put a design on toilet paper, what would it be? Favorite games. I'm a fan of most Zelda games, to be honest. I'm a fan of actually, I'm not really I can't say any Final Fantasy game is my favorite. while they're all good, they're none of them my favorite. I don't really have favorite games. I think World Ends With You has to be one of my most favorite games. Wind Waker has to be one of them. That's really it. I can't think of them off deck, so I'm not going to try. They just change randomly with what I'm playing, and I don't really have favorite games. I like every game for different things, or don't like them for different reasons. Except the obvious example would be Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. To me, Ocarina of Time is a bit bland and a bit empty. I don't like it just to be unique, so I don't dislike it just to be unique. I think it's overrated. I think it's too long. It just drags out. The plot is a bit bleh. There's no real character there's no real character interaction. But that's exactly why I like Majora's Mask. I still would play Ocarina of Time. I don't think it's a bad game. I would enjoy playing it if I could get past the fact that in some places I find it rather dull and boring. But that's just me, and I still enjoy it. It's a good game. I can't deny that it's a great game in standards and looking back. But that's how I would do. That's how I rate games. Really, I don't have a favorite that I can think of. Um, who am I LP a fan of? H.C. Bailey, Lewis Prowler, um, obviously Jogo Conroy, Nintendo Capri Sun, Lucajin, I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, Captain Noodles. I know I said that the guy a lot, but I'm not referencing for the sake of referencing. I'm referencing because he has a lot of bearing on that. Um, and I think at the moment that's it. The only person I'm actually watching currently would be Captain Noodles. I still need to catch up a lot of videos on HC Bailey, and that's what's putting me off. I don't really watch Chuck Connor anymore. Nintendo Capri Sun I just stopped watching. See, I don't really do that much. That's about it. I'm a fan of a bunch of other channels as well, but I don't particularly want to list them. And you can think, oh no, I turned off the ability for you to see who I'm subscribed to, just for the space because it looked untidy in my channel. And so we'll move on to the next questions in the next part because I think we're out of time here. And yes, this is a great view of my 15 minutes. Ha. Okay.